You ever have to make one of those really huge decisions? You know, the kind where the stakes are high and the future is just a total mystery? Yeah, we've all been there. Well, today, we're going to look at a powerful tool that helps turn those confusing crossroads into a clear, visual map so you can make the best choice possible.
So, picture this. You're a manager, and you've got this brilliant idea for a new product, but it's going to cost a fortune to develop. If it's a hit, you could make millions. If it bombs, well, you've just lost a massive investment. So how do you make that call? How do you decide when you literally can't predict what's going to happen? This is exactly the kind of problem we're going to tackle.
Before we can draw our map, we've got to understand the terrain. And when you're making big decisions, that terrain is often pretty dark. It's filled with two big obstacles: risk and uncertainty.
Now, these two words sound similar, but they are critically different. Risk is when you can actually assign probabilities to what might happen. Think of it like rolling a die. You know you've got a 1 in 6 chance of hitting a 4. Uncertainty, though, that's when you have no idea what the probabilities are. It's a complete unknown. And while there's not much we can do about pure uncertainty, we can build some incredible tools to navigate situations that involve risk. So, what if you could take that messy, tangled-up future and just lay it all out visually? What if you had a map? Not a map with just one road, but one that shows every single path you could take, every possible turn of events, and where each and every one of them ends up? That, right there, is the whole idea behind a decision tree. Okay, so how do we actually build this map? Let's take a look at the simple but really powerful parts that make up a decision tree. At its core, a decision tree is really just a diagram. But don't let that fool you. It's an incredibly powerful one. It's designed to break a huge, complex problem down into smaller, more manageable pieces by showing every action you could take and then all the potential results that might follow. And you know what's crazy? This whole map is built with just two simple symbols. First, you've got the square. That's a decision point. It's a moment where you have to make a choice. This is the stuff you control. Then you've got the circle. That's an outcome point. This represents a chance event, something out in the world that is totally out of your hands. Getting that distinction right, what you control versus what you don't, is absolutely everything.
All right, enough with the theory. The best way to get this is to just build one. So let's walk through that new product launch example step by step.
Every decision tree kicks off on the left with a choice that you control. So here's our first square. Do we develop the new product or do we not develop it? This creates the first two big branches on our map. Now, the do not develop branch is super simple. Its outcome is 0. No cost, no profit, nothing. But that develop branch, that's where things start to get interesting.
If we decide to develop, we immediately hit our first outcome point, that circle. From here on, we don't control what happens. It's up to the market. So based on our research, we figure there's a 70% chance the launch will be a success and a 30% chance it'll be a failure. And we write those probabilities right there on their branches.
But wait, it gets even more detailed. You see, success isn't just one thing. It can mean high profit, medium profit, or low profit, and each of those has its own probability. And even failure isn't a total dead end. Maybe there's a chance we could sell off the research and get some of our money back. So we map out all of these possibilities, creating more and more branches, and we add all the financial numbers and probabilities as we go.
Okay, so we've built this big, complex branching map. It shows us everything that could possibly happen. But how do we actually use it to find the single best path forward? Well, the technique is called rolling back. It's kind of cool. We drew the tree from left to right, thinking our way into the future. To figure out the best choice, we do the exact opposite. We start at the very end, the final destination's on the far right, and we work our way backward, all the way to our very first decision. The magic trick here is something called expected value, or EV for short. It's just a way of calculating a weighted average. All you do is multiply each potential payoff by the probability of it happening. So for the success branch, we do the math, and the total expected value comes out to $780,000. For the failure branch, it's a much smaller $30,000. Now we roll back one more step. We take those two values we just figured out, the $780,000 for success and the $30,000 for failure, and we weight them by their own probabilities, that 70-30 split. This gives us a single expected value of $555,000 for the entire developed branch, and that's before we account for our initial costs. And this brings us right back to the start, to that first square, the moment of clarity. We compare our two options. The don't develop path is worth 0, plain and simple. The develop path has an expected value of $555,000, but we have to remember to subtract our initial development cost of $400,000.
Which leaves us with a final net expected value of $155,000. The numbers have spoken. Based on this analysis, developing the product is the clear winner. It has a positive expected outcome.
And here's a great little practical tip. Once you've made your decision, you can actually go back to your diagram and physically cross off the losing branch. It's a simple thing, but it visually cleans up the tree, leaving you with a crystal clear map of the path you've decided to take.
Now, before we finish up, it's really important to remember that this isn't just some magic number crunching machine. The numbers are powerful, but there's some really important context we need to consider.
People are just wired differently when it comes to risk. Someone who's really risk-averse might use what's called a maximum strategy. They look at all the worst-case scenarios and just try to pick the best of a bad bunch. On the flip side, a risk seeker might use Maxim X. They ignore everything except the jackpot, that single best possible outcome. A decision tree lets you see all the possibilities, so you can apply whatever strategy fits you best.
And look, the model does have its limits. That $155,000 isn't a guarantee of what you'll get. It's a long-run average, like if you could repeat this exact decision 1,000 times. But for a one-off choice, your real outcome is going to be one of those specific branch endings, not the average. Plus, the whole thing is only as good as your probability estimates. And let's be honest, that could be incredibly tricky to get right.
So here it is, the most important thing to take away from all of this. A decision tree is not a crystal ball. Its real power isn't in predicting the future. Its power is in forcing you to think clearly. It makes you identify your choices, consider all the uncertain outcomes, and bring structure and logic to your thinking about that unknown future.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? Whether it's a career move, a big personal investment, or a major project, what's the next big, uncertain decision in your life where mapping out all the possibilities could give you the clarity you need to finally move forward?